He doesn't say it, but you feel it. The shift, the silence, the emotional distance. And suddenly, you find yourself playing detective in your own love story, wondering when he started pulling away. It wasn't a big fight. It wasn't even anything he said. It was everything he didn't. He used to notice the little things. The way your voice softened when you were tired. The way you'd pause mid-sentence when something deeper was begging to be heard but you were too scared to say it. Now, he barely looks up, and so here you are, overthinking everything. You scroll through old texts. You rehearse what you could say to make him remember. But let's be honest, you don't just want him to respond. You want him to feel it, to ache for you, to miss you so deeply that silence becomes unbearable. But you don't want to manipulate. You don't want to beg. You want to be missed because your presence mattered. Because who you are without trying, without twisting yourself, leaves a mark that lingers long after you walk away. So what really makes someone miss you? What stirs that aching space in their chest when you're no longer around? Not the games, not the unread messages or half-seen stories. Something older, something deeper. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." That kind of clarity, the kind rooted in self-respect and emotional depth, is what makes a person unforgettable. Not surface-level attraction, not performative independence, but soul-level impact. So let's go there. Not to win him back, not to become someone else, but to come back home to yourself, the version of you he was always searching for, before he even knew how to ask. Because when a woman stands in that version of herself, she doesn't chase, she doesn't force. She simply becomes impossible to forget. And if you're feeling invisible right now, if you're tired of giving, over-explaining, or shrinking just to keep someone's attention, this isn't about changing who you are. It's about remembering what parts of you still ache to be seen. It's about choosing presence over performance. And it's about quietly becoming the one he can't stop thinking about. Not because you played your cards right, but because your absence echoed in all the places he didn't know were empty. Let's uncover the 4 things that awaken that kind of missing. Not through tactics, but through truth. And if you're ready to feel seen not just by him, but by yourself, stay with me. And if this speaks to something tender inside you, you already know what to do. Like the video, subscribe, not because you were told, but because you felt something. That feeling, that's where we begin. The first thing that makes him miss you is not what you say, it's what you stop saying. See, he got used to your explanations, the way you filled silence with softness, the way you softened his edges with over-understanding, the way you tried even when he didn't. But something happens the moment you stop over-giving, not with bitterness, not with rage, but with quiet, sacred self-respect. It's the shift he didn't see coming, because he thought you'd always be there, always replying, always folding yourself into something smaller so he could feel taller, always reaching first. He never had to ask where you stood because you were already halfway to him. But now you pause. Now your responses have breath. Now there's space where there used to be chasing. And that space, it terrifies him more than your words ever could. Because you didn't storm out. You didn't scream. You just pulled your energy back. And suddenly, his world feels a little quieter. Not because you're punishing him, but because you're returning to yourself. There's a kind of power in no longer explaining your worth. In no longer auditioning for someone who already has front row seats. In no longer talking someone into seeing you when they keep blinking. It's subtle, almost invisible, but he feels it. He feels it when he opens a message thread and sees nothing new. He feels it when he shares something and you don't leap in to validate. He feels it when your eyes stop asking, "Am I still enough for you?" Because the moment you stop asking that question is the moment he starts asking it, not out loud, not yet, but deep in that part of him he thought he had control over. That quiet withdrawal, not of love, but of effort, creates a hollow he didn't expect. And the thing about hollows, they echo, louder than words, longer than text, deeper than attention. He misses you when he realizes your energy wasn't desperate, it was devotion, and now it's gone. This isn't about playing distant. It's about recognizing that the version of you that kept chasing wasn't the whole truth. It was the version trying to be loved by someone still learning how to see. You don't have to explain that version away. You can thank her. She loved hard. She tried. But now, she's tired of being the only one trying. And when that shift happens, when you start meeting yourself in places you used to beg him to enter, He feels it, because now you're not on his page. You're on your own. And your silence, it's not empty. It's full of every word you stop needing to say. So if you've ever wondered why he suddenly checks your stories, why he lingers on your photos longer than before, why he sends a message that says, "Hey, you good?" as if he didn't notice your glow dimming slowly, daily, it's because that first thing, that quiet reclaiming of your voice, it woke something in him, a loss he hadn't named yet, a presence he hadn't learned how to hold, and now, an absence that won't leave him alone. But you're learning to hold yourself now, and in doing that, you become unforgettable. The second thing that makes him miss you deeply is when he sees you in your stillness, not in the noise, not in the hustle to move on or prove something, but in the peace that comes from no longer needing to be chosen. You used to try so hard to be the one, to be the safe place, to be the woman who never triggered his wounds, to be low maintenance, easy to love, easier to keep. You thought if you could just love him right, soft enough, hard enough, wisely enough, he'd finally stay. But that wasn't peace, that was performance. And now, something inside you has gone quiet. Not numb, not bitter, just still. A deep exhale your soul had been waiting for. It's the moment you realize that your worth is not up for discussion, that your softness does not need to be defended, that your love is sacred, and not everyone is meant to carry it. And when he sees you in that stillness, not seeking, not fixing, not proving, it disorients him. Because men don't miss noise. They miss the presence that disappears quietly, the energy they took for granted when it was always available, the connection that once held them even when they couldn't hold themselves. He'll wonder where it went. He'll scroll through your photos and see something different, something calm. He'll notice the softness in your smile that isn't trying to get a reaction. He'll sense the distance, but it won't feel like punishment. It'll feel like you finally found a way back to yourself. And that's the kind of stillness that haunts him, because stillness has no story, no accusations, no drama, just space. And in that space, he's left with himself, not your reminders, not your warmth, not your emotional labor keeping the connection alive, just himself. And for some men, that is the first time they truly feel your absence. Because when you stop orbiting his emotional weather, when you stop trying to earn something that should have been freely given, he feels the vacuum, the quiet grief of a connection that didn't die violently, but faded from neglect. And you stopped fighting for someone who didn't know how to stay. Not because you stopped loving him, but because you started loving you. And that love, that quiet, gentle turning inward, is what he misses. Even if he doesn't have the words for it, he just knows the room feels colder, that conversations with others feel thinner, that attention feels empty when it doesn't come from you. And no matter how many people he entertains, no matter how many faces show up on his screen, there's a stillness only you brought. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real, and real doesn't replace easy. So let him feel it. Let him sit in the silence. Let him remember what it was like to have your calm in his chaos. Because one day when the world gets too loud, when his heart feels too heavy, he'll close his eyes. And that stillness will visit him again. Your voice, your laughter, the peace of being seen without needing to perform. And that's when he'll miss you most. Not because you were loud, but because you were gone. The third thing that makes him miss you, truly, painfully, deeply miss you, is when he sees someone else experience the version of you he never held with care. Maybe it's not a new relationship. Maybe it's not romantic at all. Maybe it's just a photo, the kind where your eyes are lit up from within, where you're not posing, you're simply glowing. And he realizes he hasn't seen that version of you in a long time, not because it wasn't there, but because he never made space for it, because he was too distracted, too guarded, too unsure. And now someone else sees you. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's your own reflection, but you are being seen in ways he never tried to see you. He notices the joy he once dimmed now shines brighter in your absence. He sees the freedom you walk in and realizes he never gave you that room. He sees the softness returning to your face and knows that softness had to leave him to survive. And that realization, it cuts deeper than silence. Because when a man realizes he was handed something rare, something real, and he mishandled it, that memory doesn't fade. It lingers. It aches. He'll remember the way your eyes used to search his for safety, the way your body tensed before sharing hard truths, the way you asked, "Are you sure?" even when you gave your all. And now, he sees that same woman, but she no longer doubts herself. She no longer asks. She simply lives. And in that living, you become a mirror he can't look away from. Because now he sees the version of you that was always there, just buried under all the trying, the waiting, the shrinking. It hits him hardest when he sees someone else laugh at your jokes, when someone else leans in to understand your heart, when someone else gets the front row seat to your healing. And no, it's not about making him jealous. It's not about replacing him. It's about evolution. You didn't move on out of spite. You moved inward out of necessity. You didn't stop loving him overnight. You just started choosing yourself in places he refused to meet you. And now, the radiance he sees, it's not for show. It's not for him. It's for you. But he will still feel it, in quiet places, in sudden waves, when he hears a song, when he walks past your favorite spot, when he sees someone wear their heart like you did. That missing isn't loud. It's slow. It builds. It stays. Because it's not just that he lost you, it's that he lost the chance to witness you becoming. And now, all he has are flashes, memories wrapped in what-ifs. He will wonder what might have happened if he had been softer, if he had stayed curious, if he had chosen love instead of ego. But by then, you will be too far down your path to look back for long. You'll send him grace, maybe even gratitude, because some endings are actually doorways, and some heartbreaks are invitations to meet the woman you were always becoming. The woman who now walks in light, the woman who no longer pleads to be understood, the woman whose love is no longer conditional on someone else's readiness. And that woman, she's unforgettable. So when he sees her, when he realizes she was always there, just hidden beneath years of tolerating less, he'll miss her. Not for a moment, but over time, in layers, in waves, because it's not just the absence of your presence, it's the absence of who he could have been if he had stayed. The fourth thing that makes him miss you is time, not the kind you count in hours or days, but the kind that only memory can touch. Because real missing doesn't always hit right away. Sometimes it waits until the world quiets down, waits until the distractions no longer distract, waits until he finally sits with himself long enough to feel what he buried. He may think he's fine. He may go on dates, make jokes, live his life. But time has a way of bringing things back. It starts with something small, an old song in the car, a scent that catches him off guard, the sight of someone wearing your shade of laughter, and suddenly you're there, not in body, but in feeling, in fragments. And those fragments, they don't fade. They stack, they whisper. He'll remember how you used to listen, really listen, not just to his words, but to the space between them. He'll remember the way your hands calmed him, even when his world was spinning. He'll remember your silence when you could have said more, but chose to protect his heart instead of prove your point. He'll remember not just what you gave, but what he didn't return. Time does that. It peels away the ego. It strips down the stories. It leaves a man alone with the truth. And the truth? You loved him. You saw him. And he wasn't ready. But time has a cruel kindness. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It just keeps moving, carrying memories like waves against the shore. Some days, he'll distract himself. Other days, he'll feel it all. But eventually he'll realize something. That love like yours doesn't come twice. That the way you stayed, even when it was hard, even when he made it harder, was rare. That your presence was not a given. That the way you cracked open your soul just to meet him where he stood was not normal. It was sacred. And now that it's gone, time only deepens the ache. It's not just that he misses you. It's that he misses who he was when he was with you. The man you believed in. Even when he couldn't see himself, he'll realize how much weight your belief carried, how much healing your presence gave, how many times you chose love over pride, and how many times he didn't. And by the time he understands the cost, you won't be waiting anymore. Not because you stopped loving him, but because you finally started loving you, because time taught you too. It taught you what your silence could say. It taught you who shows up when you stop asking. It taught you that loving someone is not the same as breaking yourself for them. And so you moved forward, not as revenge, but as rebirth. Now your days are softer. Your laugh is real. You no longer live on emotional scraps. You feed yourself peace. You no longer chase the version of you who begged to be chosen. You've become the woman who chooses herself. And that woman, She doesn't need to be missed. She simply is. But he will. He will miss her. In seasons, in memories, in quiet corners of his soul. Because time doesn't just pass. It teaches. And sometimes, the greatest lesson is this: she was never too much. You were just not ready. And now, she's gone. But let's pause here, not to rewind, not to dwell, but to breathe. Because you, the woman listening right now, you're not just a ghost in someone else's memory. You're not here to be missed. You're here to be found by yourself first. And maybe that's the hardest part. When you've spent years stretching your heart just to be held, you forget what it's like to hold it yourself. But you're remembering now. Slowly, softly. Every time you choose silence over self-betrayal, every time you let a moment pass without over-explaining, every time you sit with your feelings instead of handing them to someone else to validate, that's the kind of growth no one can see from the outside. But it's the kind they feel, especially the ones who used to take from you without knowing how to give. You are not cold. You are not distant. You are simply no longer handing out warmth to those who shiver at the thought of intimacy. And he feels it. Not all at once, but in those quiet places, the ones you used to fill. He'll feel it when he's surrounded by noise but longs for your stillness. He'll feel it when he's entertained but not understood. He'll feel it when he realizes no one else laughs at his stories the way you did, because you didn't just hear the story, you heard him. And maybe he'll reach out. Maybe he'll say he misses you. Maybe he'll ask how you've been. But by then, you'll hear the question differently. Not as a lifeline, not as a promise, but as a reflection of who you were and who you've become. You won't need to run to it. You won't need to shut it down either. You'll just breathe, because now you know that kind of love, the kind that makes a man miss you in his bones, is born from wholeness, not from wounds. You loved him with a heart that wasn't trying to prove itself. You just wanted to be seen. And when he couldn't, you didn't punish. You evolved. And the world, it starts to shift when a woman does that. When she stops waiting for the text, stops checking who viewed the story, stops twisting her intuition into silence, stops asking if she's too much, and starts asking, what does my soul need today? That's the woman who becomes unforgettable. Not because she was perfect, not because she played it cool, but because she stopped abandoning herself just to be remembered. And when a man loses that kind of woman, when he watches her stop reaching, stop explaining, stop pouring into him, he doesn't just miss her presence, he misses his chance. Because someone else will meet her where she stands, not because she demanded it, but because her energy no longer entertains less. She became the standard, not the exception. And the man who wasn't ready, he'll relive moments in rewind. He'll try to patch stories that already ended. He'll wonder how he let it slip. Not just you, but the version of himself he could have become beside you. And maybe one day, you'll hear from him again. Maybe he'll say he's changed. Maybe he has. But the question isn't if he misses you. The question is, does he finally see you? Not the fantasy, not the version of you that overfunctioned to make it work, but the real you. The you who now takes up space. The you who no longer waits at closed doors. If not, you'll smile, softly, with grace, because the woman you are now, she knows that real love doesn't require shrinking, that being missed is not the same as being valued, and that the one who gets to stand beside her now will have to match the depth she once gave away for free. So here you are, still soft, still whole, but no longer available in the same way. He will miss you, not just because you're gone, but because you stopped needing to be found. He will miss your laughter, not the sound, but the safety it gave. He will miss your honesty, not the words, but the way they made him feel seen. He will miss your patience, not the waiting, but the way you stayed when he didn't know how to ask you to. And you won't carry resentment. You'll carry wisdom, because you've learned that love is not about how much you can give without breaking, but how gently you can hold yourself when someone doesn't know how to stay. Let him miss you. Let time do what it does. Let your stillness echo in all the places you used to fill with over-effort. You don't need to prove you were enough. You were always more than enough. You were just loving someone who hadn't yet learned how to hold something real. And maybe, just maybe, that ache in his chest is not just the loss of you, it's the awakening of him. And if this reached something deep in you, if this reminded you of a part of yourself you almost forgot, then don't let it slip away. Breathe. Stay. Come home to yourself. And if you felt seen, if something inside you whispered, "This was for me," then like this video, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to feel what you just felt, not for numbers, not for reach, but because healing moves faster when it moves together.